let's jump into the headlines from Rotoworld. The first one, big news from the past 48 hours or so, Jimmy G is staying in San Francisco. How does this change your opinion of the Niners, if at all?
The only thing it does is maybe it gives me a little bit of a pause on Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon has massive upside. Jimmy Garoppolo does not, as it relates to fantasy. What that means is, though, is unlike, say, Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence or Jalen Hurts at the high end.
So you meant Trey Lance.
I'm talking about Trey Lance. Unlike specific to Trey Lance's fantasy value. Trey Lance was a love for me this year. He's a trendy sleeper for a lot of people. What I'm saying is that unlike guys like Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, at the high end, Jalen Hurts, people that have a lot of upside, but there are questions about, are they ready to be franchise NFL quarterbacks? We're not talking about fantasy value, but franchise NFL quarterbacks. The fact is that those guys are going to be starters, barring injury. Like, they're going to be the starters all year long. Like, the Bears are committed to Justin Fields. The Jags are committed to Trevor Lawrence. The Eagles are committed this year to Jalen Hurts. Those guys are going to be starters all year long, barring injury. Trey Lance, not so much. The 49ers are like, we think we got a shot. The 49ers are like, we got a shot at a Super Bowl. And so, I mean, they went far in the playoffs last year. We are a legit Super Bowl contender this year. And if Trey Lance is not up to snuff, they know they can win with Jimmy Garoppolo. Again, not a lot of upside, but he is safe. He's a solid NFL quarterback. He can manage the game well. He can run Kyle's offense. That's the thing. We just don't know on Trey Lance. Now, they've gone all in on, but by keeping Jimmy Garoppolo around and redoing the contract, it's a little way of they're saying, like, hey, we've got a legit insurance policy if Trey Lance can't meet the task at hand. So that as it relates to fantasy, to bring it back to that, I would be nervous, Jay, about going into his fantasy season with Trey Lance as my only fantasy quarterback.
Okay, that's interesting. I kind of go the other way, where I don't think this really affects Trey Lance because I think that they're not going to bench him on performance. I just think that Kyle Shanahan is so all in on Trey Lance. If they bench him in week 9 because he's playing poorly, I think he just has to work through it. If it's so bad that he has to be benched, then yes, that's a small percentage chance and that's in play. But otherwise, I think it's only good news for the Niners in betting markets because now they're more insulated against injury at the quarterback position than any other team in the league. So they're the 4th favorite in the NFC at plus 750. You would feel better about that now than you would have a week ago when the situation was suspect. But I don't think they're going to bench Lance unless he's absolutely dreadful.
Well, but he might be.
He could be.
I mean, you're like if they're 3-5 going into week 9. And I don't know when their bye week is off the top of my head, but like to your point, if they're 3-5.
Can you bring him back though next year after that? After you benched him for Jimmy G?
Like I am with you. It's not going to be one of those things where they're just going to be like, you threw a bad pick.
Yes.
Come on. But the fact of the matter is that if they get off to a slow start or if his performance is poor, there are going to be people clamoring like, what are we doing? Yep. This guy has in terms of Trey Lance, he has a very limited amount of playing time. Right? He played 1 game his senior year. He played 2 games last year. He doesn't have a long resume of experience here. And you're asking him to lead a playoff team to the Super Bowl.
I still think he will have a long leash because of how all in the team is. It's just slightly less long.
But it's right. And you and I can disagree about how much shorter that leash just got. But we both agree it definitely got shorter.
It definitely got shorter.
Right.
Absolutely.
There's a non-zero chance that Trey Lance gets benched this year for performance.
Yes.
Whereas if their backup was Chase Daniel, you know what I mean? Like, that's not happening.
I think the other thing, too, is if Lance does get injured and Jimmy G comes in and is rolling, then maybe Lance doesn't come back in as quickly. That's the other thing, too, I think.
Yeah. That's all. If you draft Trey Lance and we still love the upside and we still think he's got the potential, the range of outcomes to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, I just make sure you get a Kirk Cousins, get a solid, get a Derek Carr, get somebody solid. If you're waiting outside the top 10 for a quarterback, get a mid-tier solid guy, and we like Carr and Cousins quite a bit here.
For sure. Okay, the other Trey in San Francisco, at least he used to be in San Francisco, Trey Sermon was waived. Does this change your opinion on Jeff Wilson, on Elijah Mitchell, on any of the San Francisco running backs?
No.
No, okay.
No, I mean, like...
Do you want to move on?
Yeah, fantasy impact is nil. Like, hey, you know how you were ignoring Trey Sermon in your fantasy drafts? Now you can continue to ignore Trey Sermon in your fantasy drafts. The only adjustment you need to make is on your cheat sheet, it probably says Trey Sermon San Francisco. And now if you just cross out the SF and put UFA,
just
instead of UFA, unrestricted free agent, like, or just FA free agent, like, because he's just available. That's what you can do. Like, if you were drafting Elijah Mitchell, the insurance running back you want is Jeff Wilson Jr.
Yes.
I feel very strongly about that. Sure. And I do think that Wilson will have a role because they like to use multiple running backs. I think Mitchell gets 70% of the running back carries in full health, but Wilson's going to have a role. And they like him there. He needs to stay healthy himself as well. But no, it's just whatever. Trey Sermon went high in dynasty drafts, and that does not look good right now.
Yeah, I think the takeaway there is that Jeff Wilson is now 1 injury away instead of 1.5 or 2 injuries away from real relevance. But still,
I think he was. I mean, I don't think Trey Sermon was. I mean, I know they were trying to justify the draft pick because he went third in the third round or whatever. But I don't think he was ever close to being Elijah. When they waived they used a third-round draft pick on him, and it's his second year in the NFL.
It's not great.
Yeah, and then they're like, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. See ya. We're good.
Not ideal. Okay, next one.
Yes, hashtag not ideal.
J.K. Dobbins, his status for week 1 is certainly in doubt, and the Ravens also signed Kenyon Drake, who we spent 45 minutes on in last week's show.
Right.
How does this change your opinion of J.K. Dobbins and his season outlook? Because we were pretty bullish about him last week, and then only bad things have happened since.
So, I think I'm in on J.K. Dobbins because I think, to your point about when you're saying with the betting markets with the Niners, I think this is going to just lower his ADP, which is already pretty low. He's currently going 54th overall on Yahoo. I think the last time I saw it was running back 24, and this will drop him even more as we get into this is a big draft weekend, and so. Maybe he's not ready for week 1. Maybe he's not ready for week 2. But he's going to be ready. He's, the fact that he's out there, the fact that they're not putting him, as of right now, on the physically unable to perform list means they expect him to be active at some point in the first 4 games. At full health, and he needs to get there, but at full health, Kenyon Drake can't hold a candle to J.K. Dobbins.
No.
Right? And so or Mike Davis. Neither of them can. So I actually think that, again, I wouldn't want J.K. Dobbins to be one of my 2 starting running backs. But again, in the first couple of weeks with every team playing and there are no bye weeks yet, I think you can fill in. And I do think Dobbins has a big second half of the season, big 3/4 of the way for the season. This is a guy, if you think about the final 6 games of his 2020, rushing touchdown in all 6 games, had 7 total. He averaged over 17 fantasy points per game. He was a top 11 fantasy running back in points per game. That's the upside there. And he was only he did that all in 13 touches a game. We get him to 16 touches a game, 17, which I think he could do, especially with Edwards coming back slowly. And, Drake and Davis are more depth, I think, than real threats to his playing time.
Yes.
I actually think this news, as it relates to his fantasy value, hurts obviously in the very short term, but long term this year, I'm in on J.K. Dobbins. Something interesting to note here is that one of the preseason storylines around the Ravens, Jay, is last year when they were top 9 in the NFL in pass attempts. Yeah. That was because they lost Dobbins, they lost Edwards, they were, they had street free agents, right? Well, now still, once again, no names. Gus in there they're going to go back to run heavy this year, and I'm like, we sure they're going to do that? Because again, right, Dobbins a little bit gimpy, Edwards is out, Drake and Davis are both nice pass catching running backs.
My
Lamar Jackson's playing for a quarter, playing for a contract. He just saw Russell Wilson get $250 million or whatever it was. Lamar, you don't make $250 million by handing off. You understand what I'm talking about, Jay?
No, and they have more receiving weapons, we think, than maybe the general public thinks, in that you have Mark Andrews, we love Rashad Bateman, Isaiah Likely as well is a great receiving target for a rookie. I'd just be concerned with Dobbins that there's just a lot of people there now in Baltimore who want to play in Drake, Edwards when he comes back, and Mike Davis, and Dobbins coming off the injury. I think that latter half of the season is when he could really ignite, but I think it's going to be a bit messy until then. Now,
but that'll depress his ADP. Again, we agree here. I think it'll be sooner than the second half of the year. I think it'll be, a couple of games in. But look, just because they want to play, meaning Drake and Davis want to play, doesn't mean they're going to get to play.
Yes, absolutely.
J.K. Dobbins, forget fantasy, whatever. J.K. Dobbins, just from the film, J.K. Dobbins is the most talented running back on that team, and I don't think it's all that close.
It's not close, no. Okay, another high draft pick who's fallen on some more difficult times than J.K. Dobbins. Now, this is funny because the initial draft of the rundown...
Wait, what part is funny? That this guy has fallen on hard times? You are dark.
No.
Look at these Australians are dark. They're so mean.
What is funny is that in the initial draft of the rundown, it said the Vikings snag Jalen Reagor from Philadelphia, and that language has been changed to the Vikings acquire Jalen Reagor from Philadelphia, which I think is apt because a little less positive. I don't think Jalen Reagor is going to have too much of a role, even with the passing offense.
Vikings shrug their shoulders and say, sure, why not, to Jalen Reagor.
Yes. Acquire is the perfect term.
Right.
I think that he's
tolerate
him on the premises.
Yeah,
I still think he's worse than KJ Osborne. He's clearly worse than Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith as well will get more targets. Even with the Vikings playing 11 personnel and bringing their offense into the 21st century, I don't think there's going to be much room for Jalen Reagor, the great Jalen Reagor, unless we're seeing multiple injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. It's one of those things to just sort of keep on your radar. I agree with you. I think you're drafting for the pass catchers. You were drafting Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Irv Smith in that order is what I would do. Okay. You could swap Smith and Osborne if you needed a tight end as you're going through your draft. But the four guys that you see on your screen there, Jefferson, Thielen, Irv Smith Jr., and KJ Osborne, those are the guys you want. Having said that, like Jalen Reagor was a first-round pick, right? And it's like it's not his fault that he was drafted one spot ahead of Justin Jefferson, right? I mean, now
you get the dream team.
Hang on,
pair him up.
Jalen Reagor had a very productive college career. No one was just like, "Wow, what are you doing drafting Jalen Reagor?" Like he was expected to go in the first 2 rounds, the NFL draft the year he came out, and that's a team that has had inconsistent quarterback play, inconsistent coaching, a lot of turmoil in the front office. It is a tough place to play in Philadelphia if you don't produce right away. I don't know. I've never met Jalen Reagor. I've never talked to him. I don't know his mentals. All I'm saying is that he's not while his NFL career has not gone the way that he or the Eagles hoped it would go the first 2 years. Fresh start, new division, new coach, less expectations. They traded a conditional 4th and a 7th for him. I wouldn't be surprised. You're definitely not drafting him. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if Reagor makes a waiver wire column at some point this week, at some point this year, where you're just like, you know what, actually, he's been kind of productive the last couple of weeks. Anyway, that's...
Okay. We should bookmark this because Matthew Berry is all in on Jalen Reagor.
Let's play
this back in Week 12 when he's playing for the Raiders.
Listen, just because I'm not some Australian asshole dumping on this poor kid, I like the talent. You don't. You hate this guy. You hate this guy with a fiery passion. You hate this guy the way you hate, people that don't like Armageddon or Keanu Reeves. He's the anti-Keanu Reeves for you. I'm just telling you, I don't know. I just somebody that was a first-round pick in the NFL that is now going to a good quarterback and a pass-happy offense, that has, when you think about Adam Thielen and his injury history, I don't know. I'm not ready to immediately say, there's no way this guy ever has fantasy value again.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all I'm saying.
It's not like, say, N'Keal Harry, who had Tom Brady. So there is a bit more, the unknown and the bad quarterback situations relatively in terms of passing does create a little bit of upside variance, and he's going to be in a position to succeed because we think that this offense in Minnesota is going to be
You're not drafting him, but just a name to keep, you're like, hey, where'd Jalen Reagor go? Yeah. Oh, turns out he's in Minnesota.
Yeah. Okay, next one. The Chargers sign Sony Michel, formerly, very briefly, of the Dolphins. Now, Sony Michel's been ruining fantasy situations for half a decade now. Does this change any of your opinions about Sony Michel or the Chargers? I don't think he's going to be really hurting Austin Eckler too much, but
no,
Isaiah Spiller?
Right, exactly. Just if something were to happen to Eckler, is he in the mix now, along with Spiller and Larry Roundtree and Josh Kelly and, some of those guys? Maybe. I don't know. When you can't make the Dolphins,
I know those.
They've got. Listen, they have Edmonds and Mostert. Yep. They still have Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed that they had there, but Sony Michel is somebody that the Rams traded for, and the Rams were willing to let him go, and then he gets to Miami, and then Miami's like, we're okay, and so. Look, any running back has value if he's going to get touches there, but I think that if anything were to happen to Eckler this year, you would see a running back by committee behind him, and I don't know that you would have a, Justin Jackson situation from, the other year where it was that 1 week where it was, Jackson just had a monster game. So
McVay was giving carries to Cam Akers getting 2.6 yards per carry in the playoffs over
Sony Michel.
What Sony Michel was giving.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's definitely a weird one. But I don't think this. listen, if you're sitting there and trying to decide between whatever Tyler Algier and Isaiah Spiller for your last running back spot, then okay, then maybe you go with Algier, because Spiller's path to significant playing time just got a little bit more complicated. But that's pretty much it. Like, you're talking like deep backup running back.
For sure. Okay, last one. Cliff Kingsbury said Zach Ertz will be close for week 1 with a calf injury. Now, you love Zach Ertz.
I do.
You still love Zach Ertz.
I do.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so, maybe he doesn't play week 1. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But this is a guy who last year, third most targets among tight ends, tied for most red zone targets among tight ends, tied for the highest red zone target share among tight ends. After he was traded to Arizona last year, he was the 5th best tight end on a points per game basis, 4th best overall among tight ends, and he hadn't even learned the playbook. They're like, hey, Zach, run a seam route. We'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, he was just trying to find the field at that point. Hey, which way's the locker room? Right? And Zach Ertz still produced in a massive way, got 7.5 targets a game, tied for 3rd most red zone targets among tight ends from the time he went to Arizona till the end. Like, yeah, give me Zach Ertz, who especially, by the way, is going 10th among tight ends on Yahoo, and maybe this news dumps him a little bit in the next 2 weekends. I'm in on Zach Ertz. Okay. I don't know that I want him in a dynasty league, but yeah, this year, given his ADP and that offense, like, again, invest in good offenses, invest in good quarterbacks. They have shown a willingness to throw to the tight end over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a kind of Ezekiel Elliott vibe about Zach Ertz, but on a lower scale, where Zach Ertz has just become boring. Everyone has had Zach Ertz on their fantasy team
no one likes him
over the past few years, but the guy just produces. Yeah, even if everyone will be taking Dallas Goedert over Zach Ertz because Dallas Goedert is more fun, it's a bit more unknown, haven't seen it before, maybe haven't had him on your team.
He's younger. Give me Zach Ertz. Oh, I'll say I prefer Zach Ertz to Dallas Goedert straight up this year. I will say that right here, right now. And you don't even have to do that straight up because, again, on Yahoo, and I assume most other platforms, he's going 2 or 3 rounds after Goddard. He's certainly going 2 or 3 tight ends after Goddard. Goddard is generally the 7th or 8th tight end off the board, and Ertz is usually in the 10-11 range among tight ends. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.